Well, I appreciate it. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. If you're on, I think, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat window. We will be muting everybody just to make sure that, we don't run into any unexpected technical issues, I'll call it that. But for anybody who's been with us, appreciate you again joining. Hopefully I'll be able to give you some more content around Birst. We'll talk about what it is, what it does, and see how it can help you. So again, my name is Massimo Emilione. I'm the practice director here at Avaap for our development teams. Hope to give you some information that you have. So I'm going to talk a few things here. One of the things I'm going to show you right off the bat is what's possible. What can you do with Birst? And then we'll talk about how do you get there. And so by getting there, what's involved? Well, one is your understanding of BIs, evolve your understanding. And then let's figure out what the right strategy is by using the right tool, right? If you have a hammer, you're not going to use it to, break a piece of wood. You could, but not the best tool to utilize. So just remember that. And then, how would you effectively be able to implement Birst, and then any Q&A. I'm going to try to keep my questions open. If I see a good opportunity to ask the question, to answer questions, I will. If not, I'm just going to keep going and then bring up or answer that question when the appropriate time is. All right, guys. So real quick, I wanted to show you what is the art of the possible. What's possible with Birst? So here, I have a Birst dashboard. This is a dashboard, not very beautiful in my opinion, but it's just something quick that we put together to show you what's possible. You can put logos on here. You can put links to other web pages. You can put metrics, key KPIs, key performance indicators on this screen. For now, we just out into certain areas: income statement, operating expenses, trial balance, operating income, and then data exploration. This is obviously around finance. So anyone who's in HR, I apologize. I can show you some more HR relevant dashboards or some supply chain ones if you'd like as well. And I can try to show you those if I have some time to show. But what's nice about Birst? Birst is or what is Birst? Birst is a cloud-driven BI platform. So what do I mean by platform? It has the capabilities of being your reporting engine, your analytics engine, as well as its own data warehouse. In order for analytics to work, you need to have a data warehouse typically. And so Birst has that all built in. It's a cloud-based solution, so there's no installs typically needed. There is a small client install that's needed at least once just to connect to your database. So let's say you're an on-premise customer, on version 10, and you have all your databases on-premise. How do you connect to it? You would do it through this Birst Connect tool that they have. And then it acts as a service on that machine. So typically we recommend that you install it on a server so that it's monitored. If it needs to be rebooted, it can be done so on a monthly basis. And what it does, again, Birst will connect to any database that you have. It's great for in data, but you can also take in data from an Excel spreadsheet. You can take it from a random database that you might have in the organization. So anything that you have access to as far as data is concerned can be touched or utilized by Birst, okay? So in here, again, we have our, what I would call a one-stop shop, a dashboard landing page for our finance area. And in here, I have accumulated both what I could consider reports. So what are reports? Reports are two-dimensional, columns and rows. So let me click on the income statement and just show you. So this is an example of an income statement. It's not the prettiest. We just threw something together just to show you what's possible. But you're able to see here, what's available here. And so Birst does have this capability. Infor has actually produced a lot of content out of the box that's available for you on day one if you're on the multi-tenant Cloud Suite platform. Income statement, balance sheet, trial balance, those are things that are still today still being recommended to use a different tool than Birst, but it doesn't mean you can't use Birst. There's just prerequisites and things that need to be considered if you wanted to go down this route. but we were able to build one. You are able to build one in here, but by standard delivery, it's being done by Infor with the Infor IBI tool. So IBI or Infor Business Intelligence. Okay, so now let's switch over. I'll show you a trial balance just to show you what's available. All right, and again, same concept. I can still be able to throw in a pixel perfect, what we call pixel perfect, basically something that has to be put into a piece of paper that has to be printed, right? An 8x10. So being able to show those kinds of break lines, you see how it breaks here, and then I can go to my next page. This is what I would consider a report with rows and columns that have to be broken out by pages so that you can actually print it. Now, earlier I talked about in the agenda that what needs to change when you start using Birst. To me, it's the thought process of what you used to know. So think about everything that you used to know about a telephone, a landline telephone. How many of us still own one? If I were to poll everybody, I would almost guess, I think that number is probably going to be less than 25%, if not lower, right? If I poll you guys now and I ask you, how much time do you spend on your cell phone talking to somebody? If I asked you that question 20 years ago, the answer would have been probably 100%, right? As much time that you're on your cell phone, you're probably talking to somebody. But fast forward to today, what you used to do 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, you're not doing that today, right? Most of us are on, maybe social media or texting our friends, and we're probably on the phone less. 20 years ago, we were all excited to get emails. Fast forward to today, I think none of us are excited to get emails, but we're excited to get regular mail, right? 20 years ago, we got junk mail in the mail, and today, if I get even an envelope, I'm like, oh, I got a letter, right? So what needs to change is really what we used to know about dashboards and reports, and trying to evolve our understanding of what we can ask for. So now, instead of these two-dimensional reports where I have rows and columns, I can now include KPIs. So for those of you that were with us with loss in 10 and loss in 9, there was a lot of things that were limited. Hey, I want to get a report added to my dashboard. And really what we were looking for, we were looking to be able to show high-level metrics on its screen, like our car, where you have all of your notifications. And if something goes wrong, you're immediately notified there's a problem, right? If something's, tire pressure is low or oil pressure is low, it'll let you know that there's something that needs to be done, right? And that's what true analytics is supposed to do. That's what reporting is supposed to do. But we didn't have that capability in the past. We didn't have the technology. Now that we have the technology, the things that we want to be able to do is show high-level information. So yes, Birst can do reporting, but is that where the value tool is? And I would say no. To me, the value is where is getting the analytics from your data. So let's show what that would look like. So I'm going to switch over from a standard report, and I'm going to show you a very quick highlight of what's going on with our organization. So very quickly, I'm showing 3 sets of data. We've actually colorized it, if you want to call that a word. I have my operating income in blue, right? I've got my gross income in green. So all these lines that are in green are my gross income. My operating expenses are purple. So all my purple lines are that, and then I have my budget as well. I didn't put one up here for budget because obviously that may or may not be relevant for what we're doing here. So depending on what you need, you could put it up there or you may not have to. All right, so let's see here. I am seeing some red across my screen, right? Got some red arrows. What does that mean? Well, down red means I'm trending downwards. And it's probably not doing good. So I look over my values from last year. Last year I had an operating income of around 2.6, and this year I'm down 800. So obviously that's a negative effect of 3.4 million. So that's obviously not good. If I look at my gross income, again, same story. I'm down 2 million. So difference, from last year, 37 versus 34. So we're also obviously underperforming, and then on my expenses, I'm up 1 million. So when I want to look at this, I have a lot of different ways of being able to dissect this information. So the first thing that I would probably want to do is I notice that my income right here, my operating income that's down 804, a big bulk of it is coming from this one company. So, using my mouse, I can highlight that. And what it does, it automatically filters. So what we have today in Birst is these interactive dashboards that we've never had before in the old platforms with LBI or any other platforms for that matter. Even SQL has a analytics dashboard, but it wasn't very interactive. I know Oracle used to have OBIE, and I know it's still around, but it wasn't as intuitive as what I would consider Birst. Right now, I just selected one thing, and all of my dashboard had updated with all the correct values. So looking at this, now I can see a little bit more information about this one company. I am actually down 5 million from this one company. My other company is actually helping us stay closer to our bottom line. When I look at my expenses, I'm actually not doing that bad. I mean, I'm only 100,000 up from last year. So obviously that's not where my problem is. My problem is gross income, showing that I had an income last year of 27, this year it's 22. If I drill into it, I can get more information that's related to that particular issue. So in here, when I scroll down, I'm able to see that my hospital accounting group is down 4 million. My others are 878. So when I look at it, this is where the bulk of my issues are. Now I can start making more references of what I need to do. And so here again, when I look at this, I've got basically 3 outliers, right? This one accounting location, I've got another that is about 500,000 and another one that's 500,000. So when we look at this, that's where my problems are. And again, I can take this as far as I want to. I can continuously drill down based on how it's been set up and drill into the problem. So if I wanted to, I can look at this. I could even take it back to my Cloud Suite application and look at the actual records in the Infor application if I wanted to. But this is just the power of Birst, where you're able to now see very high level what's going on in your organization, what's the health of the organization doing right now, so that instead of wasting time looking at a 50-page report to find the problems and then exporting it to Excel and then trying to do pivot tables and do VLOOKUPs and things like that, I can have that all consolidated in a dashboard and build a story of what's going on with the organization. So when we talk about a story, we're looking at what's going on. What are the most important metrics that I, as a manager or I, as a director, have the capabilities of changing? And so those are the values that are most important to me because I can change them. So I show those important metrics at the top. I show the drivers that make it go up and down, right? So I'm starting with my most important number, which is operating income. I then show what makes that go up and down, obviously income, obviously expenses. And then I show, the helpers. What additional information am I looking for? I can see, data broken out by company. I can see my data broken out by a trend of what's happened, both broken out by the expenses and the income. So there's a lot of capabilities that I have here. And this is just scratching the surface, right? Where I can include, year to date. I could do month to date. So if I wanted to swap this, right now I have a button for year to date. I can actually look at month to date to see how we're doing compared to last year for this time of the year. And here I'm actually doing better. So again, you can see different things very quickly, very interactively. This is a live demo, guys. I'm showing you, I'm logged into my Birst account. I'm showing you what's available there, and it's all integrated with my Infor application data. So when you look at that, that's the kind of data. We've got a little bit of time, so let me just jump real quick. I want to show you some, I love my HR people. I started out in HR. I was an HR analyst. So I want to show you guys some love as well. So let me just jump into what a HR dashboard would look like in your world so that you can understand. And if there's any questions, feel free to ask them now while I'm switching channels right now. All right, so here's my HR landing page. Here, I put some metrics on my landing page. I still have some icons that will take me places. I've got my state map if I have employees in different locations. For some reason it's loading. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I'll ignore that for now. Looking at my employee counts, here we go. I can highlight, and again, this is very interactive where I can set up states, even I think counties I can get to, or it might be zip codes. It's one or the other, and actually see the information for that. If I think I can even zoom out. Well, this one's by a state map, so it's not going to let me do by country. I could have another map that does it by country and be able to see that information. So let's just jump into something. Let's go into employee statistics, excuse me. Take a look at what's going on here. So here, what you should be able to see is the ability to, check on our employee census. I have an employee count of 13,000. I've got it broken out by work type, by ethnicity, generation. I have those two broken out here. I also have a map here. So if I'm a company that's focusing on diversity, looking at how we can have more inclusion in our company, these would be metrics that I might be looking for, right? I would be able to see where our newest or biggest amount of population is. So if I look here, the darker the color, the higher the value. So I can see, what kind of organization that I am working with. Let's jump into employee analysis and just drill into it a little further and see, again, same information, but at different levels, right? Employees by department, work type. So instead of looking at a sheet of paper and then building out something in Excel, I can do this all in one screen. My favorite here is my credentials that are expiring. So if I'm trying to prevent something from happening, right, I don't want to have nurses on the floor who haven't, had their credentials extended. So if I have anyone whose credentials are expiring in the next 90 days, I can see who those are. Oops, I highlighted them by accident. I can drill into it, click on it, and then see who they are. And then as a manager or an HR director, I can, set up an actionable list of things to do, right? I can send out an email. I can work this off. Maybe I put this into an email not an email format, but throw in their email addresses, right? And then export this to Excel. So if I wanted to export it very quickly, I can then take that and then say, all right, I need to send an email, so I can copy all those columns, throw them into an email, and then send them out a letter notifying them that they have, so many days to get extended on their credentials. Let's jump into another favorite of mine, which is turnover. I think this is probably one of the biggest favorites of HR in general, is being able to see your turnover for a certain year and understand why, right? So you have a list of all your terminated employees, you have the number of employees terminated, and then the reason codes, right? What were the main reasons? If you're trying to grow your organization and help retain your talented employees, how do you do that? Well, you have to be able to identify the trends. What's been happening over the last 5 years as far as people leaving? Is it because of voluntary or involuntary? If it's voluntary, what were the reasons that people were leaving, right? These are the things that we want to be able to identify throughout the years so that we as an organization can shift as the trends change in the world that we are today, right? Today, you asked me 10 months ago, do we have to have employees working remotely? And I would have been like, no, I don't think it's necessary. Now that everyone's gotten a taste of it, a lot of us may expect companies to do some type of remote work. And that might be one of the reasons why someone leaves. Maybe they don't have enough flex time available in their work schedule. So again, the power of Birst is being able to show you what you used to look at a report, but being able to find that in a consolidated visual manner where you can now look at a story of what's going on in your organization and then be able to make a business decision, whether it's doing something, not doing something, or just monitoring it. And that's the key issues here, where if you have to drill into it, you only drill when there's an issue. You don't want to run into an issue where you have 100 stoplights where there's so many things going on. So how do we get to that point? How do we get from what we're at today and we want to go to the future, right? So the way to do that is focusing on where we've been, right? So, I think I showed this example in the past. When we thought we had a flat tire, we would just visually look, like for you guys that are in the snow. I'm sure, anybody, if you're in Denver right now, I know that 2 weeks ago, it was literally 100 degrees. And then I think sometime last week, maybe Monday or Tuesday, it snowed. And so then your air pressure in your tires probably got very low and it looked like it was flat. So, most people would have looked and said, all right, I visually inspected it. I think I'm good to go. I'll drive, right? Or we would have gotten the gauge out and actually looked at the pressure, right? But that takes time. That's a lot of manual effort that you're doing. And think of it like you dumping it into Excel sheet and manipulating the data so that it matches what you're looking for, right? So how you did things in the past are no longer the same. Today we have those dashboards in our car that will actually tell you the readout of the pressure in your car. So you don't have to guess which tire. You don't have to go and check every single tire. You should be able to look at it. And when we talk about the cell phone example, again, starting at 1990, if you had a cell phone then, you only used it to make a phone call. Not until we got into like 97, 98 did we actually play games like Snake or text message people. Not until 2004 did we get our first glimpse of a smartphone, which had to use a pen if anyone had one of those. I did. Not until really 2007 when iPhones came out. Now all of a sudden we have an app for that, right? But what app did we have? We didn't really know the rules. This is what we're working with right now. We're working where this is the first time we've had an iPhone and we don't know what's possible. Today we do, right? We know what we can do with a smartphone. And that's where I want to get you guys going is where do we go with business intelligence? How do we get to that next step? And really it starts with, looking at where we've been, right? We've all been here where we either do an export of the data, we get live data, we get a list view, we dump into Excel, basically working with rows and columns. Where I want to get you is instead of standing still or walking, I want to get you to this very fast brisk of walking, right? I want to get you into these analytics, being able to show you that information down below, but at a higher level. So when you have those kinds of questions or issues, you can drill down into those levels. Eventually, not today, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, not next year, but eventually getting AI Coleman integrated with your platform. So now you could do predictive analytics where you're using like a Google or an Alexa saying, hey, what will happen if this happens, right? So being able to use that as a stepping stone. All right, so most strategies that people have done in the past are these two. I'm not going to go into them. I think you guys are familiar. One's a report. You put in some parameters, you put in some filters, you get an export. The other option, which is getting closer to analytics, is being able to see problems as they come. So you start conditionally formatting things. The problem with this is there's just too much. What we have here is a Goldilocks problem, right? Too little, too much. And so what we're trying to get to is that right sweet spot, right? So this is what we wanted to get to. We want to get to a dashboard that shows me exactly what's going on. Do I have enough pressure? If not, which tire is it? And here I can see it's my front right tire that needs air. That's the just right approach. All right. So what should you be looking for? How do you start this conversation? What are the things that you need to look for? Depending on which areas, you could be in finance, you're looking for net profit. You could be in supply chain, you're looking for stock on hand or turnover on your items. You could be in HR and looking at, EEO or low turnover, time to fill, right? These are important questions. And really the questions you should be asking are, what is important to my group? What do I have the power to control? Because that's the only data you should be looking at. Yes, it's important to see the whole metrics of a company, but you don't have the power to change that. So focus on the things that you can so that when you're making decisions, you're looking at the data that is relevant to you. Because again, you want the right approach. You don't want too little information. You don't want too much information. Now, Infor does have more than just Birst, right? There are different tools to utilize for that. So when I talked about the hammer, being able to open or break a piece of wood, yes, I can use a hammer to break a piece of wood, obviously depending on the size of it. But its main focus is to, hammer a nail into some object, right? Or to extract the nail from that object. So Infor does have a lot of delivered capabilities. You have the ability to export data. So if you're looking for a true data dump, you would use your DB export capabilities in the Cloud Suite application. If you're looking to do some type of export, but for business users, the export would be more for admins. This would be more for business users where you can have it integrated into Excel. A spreadsheet designer might be a good tool. You can export the data. You can actually make changes right there on the fly and upload those changes as necessary. So, there's pros and cons to each of these tools. There are reports available in the Infor system where you're able to see the benefits and see what else you want to be able to see. There are pre-built reports that you have the capability of using. If you were on Kevin's session earlier about configuration console, you can utilize configuration console to make some changes to the standard reports. If you didn't see it, come back later. There'll be a link to his session. So if you want to learn more about those capabilities, please come back and look at that. Compass is a newer tool. This is mostly for admins. This concept of multi-tenant, meaning everyone's on the same servers to help get us to the latest versions of the application much more quicker and smoother. Produces new tools, new enhancements, and considerations that we have to have. And one of those is that we no longer have access to the database in a multi-tenant platform. For a single tenant or for on-premise, we still have access to the database. But for anyone who's multi-tenant, the new concept that you're going to hear is called a data lake. So instead of going directly to a database, you're going to get your data from the data lake, where the data is extracted from your application and thrown into the data lake. Compass is a SQL-like query tool that allows us to query against the data lake data. It is not a database, so you have to keep that in the back of your mind that it's not going to perform like one. But the idea is that it does simple queries that you may be able to utilize. So again, different tool for different sets of people based on what you're trying to do. List views, I think this is one of my favorites for users. The reason for that is no longer do you have to go run a report and then dump it in Excel. It's basically every single application has a list view for whatever you're doing. So if your job is do X, Y, and Z, well, your job requires you to see a list of data for your job. Let's say you're adding an invoice, you can see a list of invoices. You're adding a vendor, you can see a list of vendors. You're working with purchase orders, you can see a list of purchase orders. The benefit of this is that you can see a whole bunch of data at the same time and do something with it. You can make changes to it, you can see, you can make modifications to it directly, or you can upload the data or dump it into Excel if you wanted to. This is the true power of a lot of the business users. Instead of running a report, you now have the ability to actually just get access to it directly. And then, there's a lot of capabilities with these list views. I don't even know how many nowadays. At last count, there was over 4,000. I can't even give you a direct number because I don't know. There's so many list views, but you have the ability to filter and sort. All right, and then BI, FSM, this is what I was just talking about. BI, FSM is another known name for the IBI tool. So this is where you have the business intelligence using, it's a replacement for the old viewpoint or scorecard, but now you're going to be able to do balance sheets, income statements, and trial balances. This is the preferred tool right now because there's a lot of architecture that's been set up to make it more easier for you as a business user, where they've created these cubes that dump data from the Infor applications into these cubes and allows you to quickly ramp up some of the reporting. But over time, Infor has made a decision that Birst will be the BI platform for everything. So at some point, this will be replaced by Birst, but just not anytime soon. They're still working on some enhancements to make that very easy. But as I showed you earlier, you can do it. It would just be more of a custom setup that you would need to do versus the standard delivery content. And I did talk about, showing you some dashboards. So there are some dashboards that are delivered from Birst, from the Infor team, whether you're on the finance side, whether you're on the, let's go to the next one, HCM side, there are different ones. One of I think the true powers of Birst is as a business user, you have the ability to do self-service. And what do I mean by that? You're able to slice and dice the data that you see on your screen. So let's say you see a report that shows you profit by department. You could say, you know what, I want to see it a little bit differently. I want to see it by, maybe accounting unit, maybe the department's too low level. There is a capability within the application where I could say, you know what, explore in Visualizer. Let's see if I can bring that up real quick. Nope, I don't have it, sorry. But I have the ability to do that where I can now change, what measures I can see and what categories I can see. When I say categories, the descriptions or how I slice and dice the data. So this is my level 3 description. I could have done my company value, accounting unit, whatever I'm looking for, I can slice and dice by. And again, end up here with the art of the possible. Being able to see what's possible, being able to see everything at a holistic view is really where you want to go to. So when you look at the Power of Birst, I'm going to actually go on there and actually try to create something from scratch for you if you want.
Hey, Massimo, we're at the top of the hour here, about to start our next Cloud Suite session. So I just wanted to give you a last 1-minute warning if you have anything in summary that you want to add.
Yeah, so, Burst is the BI platform for Inform. Then also, want to keep in mind that there are other BI tools that are available, like list views, like spreadsheet designer. So one tool will not fit all. There's going to be different things for different types of users, whether you're a manager, a director, an end user. And really, it's not having access to just one, it's to be able to use the right tool for the job. So just think of it like your garage, where you have a hammer, you have a screwdriver, and you have a light. They all do different things, but they help each other out. And that's really what the power of Infor's BI strategy is.
Is we require enterprise burst, or is it deliverable one?
Burst is only available in enterprise now. I think in a couple of years ago there might have been different flavors of it, but there's only one version available now.
So is that included in the subscription, or is it extra charge?
That'd be something you'd have to talk to your account executive from Infor. I don't know the answer to that. My understanding is that it's all lumped
Inclusive, okay.
But you'll have to check with them.
So all the LBI reports, the Crystal reports today, there is nothing it can translate into the BI, right? So it's a separate development.
Correct. It's a different world now, right? So we're talking about taking what you used to do two-dimensionally and printing them and changing your approach and figuring out, what is the purpose of this report and being able to show that. So that's what you would be looking at.
Thank you.
Any other questions?